Hey YouTube. Hey Daryl Deemer, welcome to the stream. Get an audio check from you guys. Hey Laura, welcome to the stream. Sound is good. Yeah, I think I've finally figured out how to stop that echoing and all that stuff go on. It's basically just making sure that this replay on YouTube isn't playing at the same time. How is everybody doing on this Saturday? Hey, Nisi. How's Nisi doing? How's Alaska doing? Is it good and cold up there yet? We've had some pretty cold weather here in southern Indiana. It's been pretty darn crisp at night. I noticed that a lot of people have gotten surprise September snow, and I kind of follow the weather prognostications a little bit, and it seems like out west you're going to have a slightly warmer and less precipitation than normal winter, but that the east, which has pretty much had not too bad of winters the last few years, is probably going to get worse than normal winter this year, and we're right smack dab in the middle of that. Nisi says, man, not cold. We normally have termination snow on my birthday. Last weekend it was raining yesterday. Yep, and happy belated birthday, by the way. Candy is doing yeoman's work on modding, but if you guys don't know, Nisi was the hostess with the mostess for a long time. Nisi says we have a family of bunnies living under the shed, which means a family of eagles hunting over my house. Last time I got to watch families of eagles was when I was living in Arkansas. One of our friends had a big fancy house by one of the lakes up there in northwest Arkansas, and there were several families of eagles that lived around that lake. I'm once again bereft of topics today, so if you guys have any ideas or questions, I'd be glad to hear about it. They don't sound nearly as majestic when hunting. Yeah, they're a pretty majestic bird, though. If you follow the thinking that says that birds are basically what's left of the dinosaurs, an eagle is a large enough raptor to make you think that that might possibly be true. And for all the movies, hey Pam, welcome to the stream. We're talking much about nothing again today. I think that besides the condors, I think eagles are some of the most majestic birds out there. Has anybody had luck with a Pangenitan bovineus and goldfish? Stop correcting me. Um, I'm assuming, Nisi, that you're asking because your goldfish are eating your Apunjanetans. um, I goldfish are not something that I have kept a lot. I've raised a few goldfish, but it was because um, oh, you're thinking of ordering some. Um, Goldfish can be pretty darn destructive when it comes to plants. Um, I've raised a few of them, but it was always because every once in a while, back in the day, if you guys, Nisi says the 180 has four 11-inch wide planter boxes. Ah. Well, Apunjanetans grow pretty well in fish tanks, so as far as that goes, you'd probably be okay, but I would not hazard to guess whether a goldfish or a group of goldfish would leave one of them alone. I tend to think that they would try to eat them, but I don't know. I'm not. Plants and goldfish are not areas of my vast experience. I mean, I've killed a lot of Apunjanetans, but I the only thing I have a green thumb. I only have one goldfish, and he's pretty chill thus far. Well, then you'd probably be all right. The only goldfish that I have raised are comets, and the only reason that I have raised them is because back in the day we didn't really have a lot of choices as far as feeding. Hey, 44 Mad Guy, welcome to the stream. We didn't have a lot of choices as to what we could feed our large predatory fish, and goldfish were a very cheap feed. You could buy a lot of goldfish, feeder goldfish, for not very much money. And back then they did a lot better job of raising those feeder goldfish. They took better care of them. The water quality that they were kept in was a lot better, and they were a lot healthier. So we fed goldfish to our large predatory cichlids and other fish. And every once in a while, and I've always thought that this was, excuse me, I've always thought that it was interesting that this occurs. Every once in a while, you would put a bag of feeder goldfish into the tank, and the cichlids would go around and eat them all, and every once in a while they would leave one. Hey, KG cichlids, welcome to the stream. If any of you guys have questions, please ask, or topics that you'd like to cover, please ask, because I'm winging it again today. But every once in a while, one of those goldfish would survive. And it was like the fish in the tank recognized that goldfish as another member of the tank. Hey, Alien World Aquatics, welcome to the stream, and I hope you're doing well too. and not only would that fish survive, but the rest of the predatory fish in the tank seemed to recognize it as a member of the tank, a viable member of the tank, and that goldfish would raise up in that tank and be no longer bothered by the other fish. And I've never figured out why they would do that, whether that's some kind of natural thing that goes on in the wild, where the fish would not eat every last one of the feeders or the what they perceived as fish food, and and maybe that's some natural preservation kind of thing where they don't want to eat everything that they can eat. They want to leave some of it left alive so that it can survive and breed. But I just never really figured that out and always found it pretty amazing. So of course, once those fish that were left alive survived, I'd go ahead and keep them, you know. What did you do before water conditioner was made? Um, Old school methodology was to have a 55-gallon drum and to fill that up. Um, Back in the day, everything was about tank aged water. People didn't believe in doing a lot of water changes, um, and everything was about tank aged water, and that your fish, hey, aquatic nest, welcome to the stream. And KG Cichlids is exactly right. This was long before chloramines were an issue. Chloramines don't gas off quite as well as chlorine itself does. So you could you could fill a 55-gallon drum up and put a big air stone in it and let it run for a day or two, and you would have 55 gallons of non-chlorinated water, because literally the chlorine would gas out of that water because of all the bubbles and what people would do is that they would leave that water in that drum for several weeks and let it quote age, and and that was the water that they used to do their water changes with. So you had aged water in your tanks, and I never really understood. Hey, Maple Street Aquatics, welcome to the stream, man. Um, I really enjoyed that stream of yours that I caught. Daryl Deemer says his local Walmart has zero fish now. Not sure if that helps the hobby or not. Yeah, it's pretty much a crapshoot, unless I have gone to some WalMarts and some big box stores, and 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 found a particularly good manager, and in those instances, sometimes you can really get good fish from a decent fish manager in one of those stores that actually knows what's going on. And Maple Street Aquatics asked me, let me ask you, what's your oldest fish? And Maple Street, I was dry as in no wet tanks, for about 4 years, and that was about going on 2.5 years ago, and I got back into the hobby, and I started watching, hey, Unfiltered Aquarius, Welcome to the stream. I started watching YouTube videos about fish keeping. Hey, Big East, welcome to the stream. Um, I started watching YouTube videos about fish keeping, and hey, Pond and More, welcome to the stream. It it piqued my interest in the hobby again, and my wife had told me about 4 years earlier than that she was tired of all the tanks. I had tanks in every room, um, almost 850 gallons of water in the house. And she just really got tired of it, that there were no rooms that didn't have tanks in them. They all had tanks in them, and some of them were really big. I had two 250 gallon tanks and 210 gallon tanks and a slew of 55 gallons all over the house. And I was still keeping big cichlids. I had a bunch of jaguars, and every time we moved, I was toting all these tanks around with me, and it was getting pretty tiresome because my old 150 gallons were 7/8 inch glass, and those suckers weigh a lot. The old school 150 gallon tanks weigh about 500 pounds, and it was really getting to be a chore to try to pull those tanks out of tote them around and pull those tanks out of a truck and set them up in the house and not lose a finger or drop a tank. So all of the fish that I've got, Maple Street Aquatics, right now, I have gotten in the last 2.5 years. I guess it's going on 3 years now. And the last fish that I had bought before I went dry was a Queen Arabesque L260 Pleco. And that was still when there wasn't that much information out there about L260s. And I didn't really know how to take care of it. But I dropped it in a 55 gallon like community tank that I had, and it promptly disappeared, and I never saw it again. And I kind of expected to find it when I was breaking that tank down to go dry, and I didn't. So I'm assuming that it died at some point, and I pretty much know now that I was feeding that fish algae tablets. And L260s are carnivores. So I may literally have starved that fish to death. But it just fascinated me how beautiful they were. I've seen a lot of fish in my time, and that one just really struck me. So, hey, Pleco Whisperer, welcome to the stream. So I started talking to my wife about wanting to get back into the hobby again. It's a lot of money, and it's something where you pretty much ought to talk to your significant other about if you're going to start doing it again. Now, when I got out of the hobby, I gave all of my tanks to the local fish club. It's in Louisville, and I kept a 55 and my Oceanic 110. And I told my wife that basically all I wanted to do was set up my 110 gallon tank and keep some L260 plecos to try to get a breeding group going. So I set that tank up again. She agreed, And I set that tank up again and got it running and got enough stuff from all the stuff I had gathered over all the years and got that tank all set up, lots of filtration on it, and and I bought 6 L260s. I bought 2 wild caught, hopefully a male and a female, and I bought 4 juveniles because the L260s were going for about $60 a piece, and I could get the juveniles for I think I paid 25 a piece for them, and that was a lot of money for me at that point. I had basically just retired, and my income was fixed, and so I knew that I needed to not spend outrageous amounts of money on buying. If I bought 10 $60 L260s, that was $600 I was spending. So I bought 6, which I thought was a fairly decent breeding group, and I set that tank up, and those are the oldest fish that I've got. Now, one of my um, those fish were about 3 inches when I got them. The wild caught adults were about 3 inches when I got them. And that's basically full grown. And I have since lost one of those L260 plecos. I have had 0 breeding. I've had eggs one time, and it's since become a tank. It's since become a tank with lots of other kinds of fish in it, all basically from that area. But I've kind of given up on my L260 breeding program. KG Cichlids wants to know what my first car was. KG Cichlids, I rode motorcycles until I was about 19, and my first car I bought from my Uncle Bill he lived in Flippin, Arkansas, and ran a garage, and I was living in Fayetteville, Arkansas at the time, and I had gotten tired of freezing in the wintertime riding my bike to work, and so I decided that I would go ahead and get a car, and he sold me, what was it, a Fairlane 500? I think that's what it was. It was one of those lime green, not lime green, but kind of a metallic green Fairlane Fords. It was a really great car, and I drove that for quite a few years. And I lived on I lived in a trailer out in the sticks, and it was a rough cobbled gravel road going up to my trailer. My trailer was the furthest one up the hill and kind of away from the rest of them. And Nisi says her in-laws are in Flippin. Nisi, I grew up around Flippin. Flippin, Cotter, Mountain Home, all those places that's what I call home. I've lived all over the country. I think I've been to every state. And except Alaska and Hawaii. I've not been to those two. And that is what I call home, is Northwest Arkansas. And anyway, I was driving home from work one day, going up that rough cobble hill, and something happened. So a rock jumped up underneath into my gas linkage or something, and it sucked the pedal right out from under my foot and rammed it to the floor. And before I could shut it off, it blew the engine. It just like went loco for a second and blew the engine in that. And I ended up getting a Datsun LB 110. And I loved that little car. I drove that thing. I guess I had it about 10 or 12 years. So my initial driving experience from the time I was like 14 until I was almost 20 was all motorcycles. I rode bikes. Now, Nisi, you really piqued my interest about your in-laws being in flipping. That's pretty amazing. I guess what I would ask is what your last name is, and I don't remember it. And then I would ask where, hey Dank Tanks, welcome to the stream. Where around flipping are they from, and who do they run with? And then I'd adding substrate to the gecko tank. KG says he used to live in Fullerton for 6 years. Arkansas has always been really close to my heart. I've always had a really hard time staying there for very long because it's really difficult to get a good paying job there. Ah, okay. That makes sense. Moved to flipping 15-ish years ago. Well, it's not the flipping I remember from the 50s and the 60s, but it's still pretty much the flipping I remember from the 50s and 60s. Stultz. Okay, that's not a name that I recognize, and that's what I was angling at. I've always considered myself a hill hippie. That's what KG Cichlid says. Ben won. You unfiltered. You won on Ben Ochart's stream, but you weren't there, so he moved on. Oh man, that's terrible luck. Even when you win, you lose. That's a rough way to go. I've always loved hilly, mountainous areas, not like the Adirondacks or something like that. If it happens to me, please don't tell me. Don was about my age before he passed, but he's from the surrounding area. Stultz, that's not a name that I recognize, which is not surprising, but but it was such a small area way back when that pretty much everybody knew everybody. You couldn't you couldn't do anything without having someone call your aunts and uncles or brothers and sisters or mothers and fathers. You basically, no matter where you went or what you did, everybody knew about it. And, hey, Bob, welcome to the stream. We're talking about pretty much nothing today, so I'll have to apologize if it was unfiltered, lost the light. Uh, could go 3 minutes without air, 3 days without water, and 3 weeks without food. Yep. But going 3 weeks without food is not much fun. And we all need lights. Eee, that's rough luck. I'm sorry you won and weren't there to get it. Uh, well, I watched Bob's video about uh, his shopping spree in Knoxville. Knoxville's another country town. When I first lived there, that that is in the mountains and the hills, and my my dad moved there, and well, he worked for he worked for the space program, and when the space program dwindled down to almost nothing, a lot of the people that had worked for him went to work for TVA, Tennessee Valley Authority, which was a pretty big concern in those days, and they called him to come work with them when he pretty much no longer had a job with the space program, and so we moved to Knoxville, and they moved to Knoxville. I was already living on my own, but I came home quite a bit, so I got to know Knoxville in the early 70s. Um, and it's a beautiful town, too. Knoxville's a little bit easier to get good work. There's enough uh, companies around there. Yes, Bob, please. Please share the link to Candy's GoFundMe. And for those of you that know Candy, that are not aware, her husband is pretty ill, and I think he's had surgery. I'm not sure exactly what the situation is, but yes, I can't really afford to give myself, but I'd be more than happy to see you link it. So Candy's been basically missing in action quite a bit here lately, as far as being the hostess with the mostess, and that's what I was trying to get to when I was talking about Nisi. Nisi used to do that job, and then Candy came in and took it over. Unfiltered Aquarius is going to go cry and watch the replay now. Well, I hate to tell you, but you lost out. Denny won the algae scrubber. Ben Ocharts was one of the people that I was watching when I first got on YouTube fish video watching. Um, he and old school fish guy and a couple of other people were the ones that I was watching, and I watched him for a little while, and I thought, you know what? I could do this. I don't do it near as well as they do, and I'm not as well connected as many of them are, but uh, but yeah, they basically got me going. Nisi says, yeah, I had some family issues come up and showed Candy how to fill in. It was a blast, but very demanding on time. Oh yeah, yeah. Being a mod is the most thankless task there is, because basically all you can do is make mistakes. You know, hit the wrong button. You're lucky if you manage to catch someone immediately when they've put something up that should not be up. And a lot of times you'll click on the wrong person's name because it's scrolling by so fast, and then try to do something and mess up because you've got the wrong name. And it's a thankless task, and I appreciate everyone that tries to do it, because it's really tough, and it's hard to know sometimes exactly what constitutes uh, taking a post down, and it's hard. It's just not easy if you really take the job seriously. If you have all the links handy, if you do the work to know what it is that needs to be put up when, and and quickly manage to catch people that are basically just trolls, or trying to post links, or screaming about notice me, or come to my channel, or everybody subscribe to me. It's depending on who you're modding for, they all have a different idea of what constitutes someone needing to be uh, modded. they all they all have different feelings about what is passable and what is not passable, and you have to just know that instinctively. And so it's real easy to get it wrong. You go from modding in one of Corey's 8-hour streams to someone else's stream, and the same thing that was said in Corey's stream that required a delete or timeout. In Lucas's stream, he gets mad at you if you do it that way. So, so it's a tough, thankless task, and Candy and Nisi have done it more than most, and I think we owe them both a great deal of thanks. And I am very much hoping that things work out well for Candy and her husband. She just got done getting Caleb out of the woods, and now her husband's in it. So, besides being fish keepers, and besides being hostesses with the mostest, mods, we're just we're just people. Nisi's just here for the tea now. Well, I thank you for all the times that you were the mod that did all the hard work, Nisi. All right, guys, we're rounding the bend on 40 minutes here. Um, if you guys got some topics or questions that you'd like to watch me fumble and try to take a stab at, and now would be a good time to kick them up to the surface. Um, I keep harping on the fact that it's quickly turning off into winter for some of us, and more quickly for some than others. Um, a lot of people have gotten a snowstorm already, and that's one good way of knowing that it is time to start thinking about winter. Nisi, everybody that I've talked to says Anubis. Go with Anubis because they're so tough and leathery that most goldfish won't eat them. And basically what I would do is guppy grass and hope that they eat enough of it to keep it from taking over the tank. I don't think that they bother mosses very much. And Bob's suggesting Java fern, except I've seen goldfish eat Java fern before, so they may, you know, it's just like saying what's a peaceful fish. 44 Mac guy, welcome back. I'm glad your phone has quit going haywire on you. Um, every we say things like, well, Jack Dempsey's are really mean as a species, but depending on the individual fish you get, yep, that might work, Nisi. But Anubis is the one go-to plant that I'm aware of, and that they don't normally eat that kind of leaves. But I'd put something in there that I wanted them to eat, like guppy grass, and just grow the heck out of it and let them eat all they can hold. If they don't eat enough, you'll be in there pulling it out after a while. Um, Bob's got a big bag that he got today, and I have that same guppy grass, Bob, because that guppy grass that Haley had came out of Lucas's tanks, and I got guppy grass from Lucas through Jimmy. Jimmy got a lot of stuff, a lot of the stuff that I got from Jim before he moved out to Seattle came from Lucas. A lot of it did. And that's where I got the guppy grass from, was from Jimmy. It was in one of his tanks. And I snagged up a big wad of it. And, hey, Joel, welcome to the stream, man. So, guppy grass is the one thing that I can grow in abundance besides moss. For some reason, whatever it is that I do wrong for other plants works out really well for moss, because I can grow moss like crazy, and guppy grass. And you'll probably, if you've only got one goldfish, Nisi, you'll probably end up harvesting guppy grass a lot, just because it'll start to take over the tank. And you can plant guppy grass too. I never do. I just let it grow where it wants to, and it grows everywhere. You can just throw it in the tank and let it settle where it will. Or you could take a wad of it and plant it in your planters, and it will take over. And I can imagine guppy grass going crazy if it's in a planter full of good soil. 44 Mad Guy says, yeah, it's taken over my dwarf aquarium lilies. Mishi says, I also have 6 Danios, and they're pretty dang fun to watch. Yes, Danios are, my experience with Danios is they're pretty dang mean. They can be really nippy. And they are excellent shoalers, and you can enjoy the heck out of watching those guys. They're really active too. You put Danios in a tank with angelfish, and they'll drive angelfish nuts because they're all over the tank and they're so fast and they're everywhere, everywhere, everywhere. Nisi says, I have fluval stratum in the planters. Ortis, the orange oranda, choked on Eco Complete last year. Oh, man. I'm sorry to hear that. Hey, Lumpy Dog, welcome to the stream. You're catching us at the end, bud. Better late than never, though. I can't imagine that guppy grass wouldn't grow like the weed it is, even, with parts of it buried in fluval stratum. He says the Danios are aggressive for sure, but they leave the goldfish alone. I've had the Danios over a year, and I'm loving them so far. Yeah, they're beautiful fish. You got the right light on a Danio tank, they just flash like crazy. And they're always skip hopping around in the tank, so you get a lot of flashing out of those guys. Danios and barbs are 2 fish that I don't. My experience with trying to raise them in community tanks was not always. Oh, I'm glad you made it, Lumpy Dog, and I'm glad you got your water changes, laundry, and housework done. Since you got your housework done, you can come visit us anytime and do more housework. That's right, priorities. Well, Bob, I have been enjoying your deep foray into saltwater. That tank is starting to really come together. 44 Mad Guy says, I have dishes to wash. Lumpy Dog says, I'm a fully domesticated husband. Man, I'm not sure if I would admit that. The women will go crazy for you, man. Husbands are supposed to take the domestic jobs and do such a bad job of them that they're never asked to do them again. We take out the trash, we deal with the cars, and other than that, spend some time taking care of the kids, occasionally cook something wild and outrageous and make a huge mess while doing it. My dad used to get up and cook us breakfast on Sunday morning. Yeah, kill bugs, carry bugs, get stuff off the top shelves, open cans and jars. My dad used to get up and cook us pancakes one day a week, and but he would like make peppermint pancakes or uh, green pancakes or whatever he was doing. He would do it in such a way that it was truly unlike anything else. Nisi says, Lumpy Dog, I'd give you a gold star if I could. Doug's a domesticated husband as well. Well, I think the honest truth is we're all domesticated. Most of us anyway. Once you reach a certain age, uh, fighting everything doesn't seem to be near as much worth it as Joel says he had an eccentric parent as well. All right, guys, I'm going to shut this down. I appreciate you guys coming. My oldest loved the book Green Eggs and Ham, so I used to add green food coloring to scrambled eggs. Ugh. Hey, Candy, I hope your husband's doing all right. Can you give us an update? We've been thinking about you. We talked about you through a great deal of this live stream. I hope he's doing better. Your GoFundMe has been bandied about. Recovering and resting. Well, what's the prognosis, Candy? Are you going to kill him for having this problem? For putting you through him having this problem? And that's great news, Candy. Lots of prayers and good thoughts are headed your way. Yeah, it's an option, Candy. Um, with the Me Too movement going on, you might get away with it too. Hey, Haley, welcome to the stream that's just about to end. It's what is husband aside? Uh, you could probably get away with killing your husband these days. You just tell the judge he about died and put me through so much stress I killed him. But usually, Haley says she was elbow deep in a tank. No, 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 Haley, I'm not trying to browbeat you. He tried to die already. I think I'll keep him. Yeah. Try to keep him alive as long as you can. Misery loves company, Candy, so you got to have him around to take stuff out on him. That you don't get married. Yeah, that's an option that an awful lot of people are taking. Don says maybe you should keep the string going a little longer. Okay, well I was going to end it, but I did want to hear Candy update us on how her husband was doing, and I am really overjoyed to hear that he is doing better. Candy, seriously, please let him know that we're all thinking of him, and we're all thinking of you. And we know how much stress you've been through already. The end was basically me turning it off. There's not much to disrupt. If any of you don't know Oddball Aquatics, Haley, and are unaware of her channel, I would highly recommend that you check her out. And especially now, since she got a free pond from the pond. I think it's the pond guru, isn't it? The pond guy, maybe? Um, Aqualand. And uh, Shrimp Granny, Jess Shrimp Granny, won the pond guy. The pond guru's in England, isn't he? And Jess Shrimp Granny won the pond and turned it over to Haley for her rope fish project. And she is going to have a massive pond build, but she'll probably be so interested in it she'll forget to film it all. Haley, you probably better teach the bear how to film so that someone will actually be filming while the pond's being installed, because you're going to be so interested in everything you won't you'll forget to film. You're going to come home from work in the morning from Lucas's. I know you too well. Come home from work and be all barely asleep, and then there'll be a bang, bang, bang on your door, and they'll all be there, and suddenly your house will be a pond building expedition. And before you know it, it'll be 2 o'clock in the afternoon, and most of the pond will be done, and you'll go, oh man. Yeah, well, Bear will probably be talking to him too, so we'll get a lot of footage of Bear holding the camera down by the floor, holding the phone down. No, Haley, I'm really looking forward to it. And I hope that anybody that's here that doesn't watch Oddball Aquatics, Haley, should at least watch the upcoming pond build and see Haley breed reed fish. Because that's what's coming. I remember telling you about almost a year ago, Haley, that I saw a pond in your basement in your future. I guess I was far more prophetic than I realized. Yes, it's going to be interesting. I'm really looking forward to it. And I'm really interested to see how they solve the issues that a basement floor will present. I hope they put some sort of insulation. You know, those fish are going to want it to be about 80 degrees all the time. I was right. Occasionally I'm right. Even a blind squirrel finds a nut now and then. Who is Oddball Aquatics? Pam, I would love to introduce you to Miss Haley. And Bob's thankfully putting up who is 54 Punchy. No one, Pam. It's no one. All right, you guys, I'm going to get out of here. Please, if you can afford to, go donate to Candy Overall's GoFundMe. And please, if you don't know who Oddball Aquatics is, please go watch her channel. And please, if you know where Thomas is, go to 54 Punchy Pam's channel and let her know what happened to Thomas, whether he ever got his whopper or not. All right, guys, I'm out of here. Thank you for spending some of your precious Saturday with me. And get ready for winter, guys, because winter is coming.